Hello again, my fellow old G's. This is a tactical replay of how best, in my eyes anyway, to play highway from the south spawn. The flank to your north on the 1 and 2 line are important to hold. You lose that flank, you're pretty much fighting a battle where if they can get remotely near your base or into the F sort of 3 areas, even if they can't shoot the base, they can certainly shoot anyone retreating that's not buried behind the ridge line of the road that runs the J line. So that J line road, unless you're on the K line, if you're coming back to support the base, my god, everyone will tear you apart. So north from here in a medium. Now I have sort of delayed the start here because there's an awful lot that goes along in this battle, so let's chuck along. This is my first battle in the Centurion 7-1, which plays very similar to the Centurion before it, but obviously once you get out of the Cromwell and the Comet, these tanks, other than their gun depression, well, the Cromwell hasn't got that much, but the Comet, for example, does play very similar to the Centurion in a way, but certainly not the 7-1. But the Centurion and this do play the same way. They just have a somewhat different gun, but tier for tier they're kind of very similar. Like I say, so on this map I'm looking at the fact that they have got 3 heavies. I could go to town, I'm a bit of a boss, but they've got 2 pretty good mediums as well. If those 5 go to town and I don't get the kind of support, which doesn't look like we're getting, I'd get torn apart. So the safe option is to always just take the north flank. Now I do at this point start busily typing away, please don't go to the town, da 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 da, and I drive into the grain mill. Pro move. In my defence, I put the whole female Firefly crew into this tank. Anyway, as it's my first battle, I'm going to play it reasonably cautiously. I'm going to stick to my usual highway tactics, and sure enough, spotted. Now look, I got spotted from there because of light tanks beavering around down by the bridge, right? The only reason I've not been sort of landed on by a TD is they can't see you. They know you're there, but they can't actually see you. Now the Centurion 7-1, it does accelerate pretty quickly, so although it's not a fast tank, it goes from 0 to sort of 30 something very very fast. So like I say, you want to hold this flank. The bush slightly to my right, I'm a bit too far back to make it effective because I want it to block anything spotting me down by the bridge, which I know there was someone there a little while ago. Now watch this 1375. As you can see, I can see him. I've got an image of him. He's still on the map and I can see him. He's still there, but now he's disappeared. Now if I look over, I know he's there, he's solid, but I can't see him because he's not in my render range. If you look at the line he's on to the line I'm on, even in a TD, if they're not on the lower slopes of the base, by being here, by using this bush, they can't shoot you unless they blind fire. If you sit behind the bush and blind rounds come in, that's more likely where they're going to come to. So once you can establish yourself on this flank, especially if your camo is about to be compromised by a great big E75. Oh, what are you doing here, my friend? You can move forward on this lower ditch pretty safe from any fire from the base because, like I say, 1, they can't render the range for you until you get about 50 to 100 yards closer, and 2, once you get this far in, you've got this really lovely water tower. This is such a good place to be. There's a bush to the left of it that's really good bush. It will cover almost any tank. And there's a couple of small bushes and trees to the right of it, but the left side is more important because when you're this side, that water tower is a very solid object. If an arty round comes down, there's a very good chance it will impact somewhere around on the water tower. The other good thing is because of where I am now just able, if I get a spot, to shoot what's in the base because I've moved up just that little bit. Sadly, the E75, who's a wonderful player, decides to go and spot for me. But as you can see, now things have lit up, I can actually render them and I can get shots into them. This is quite a lucky shot because I'm using the really expensive ammo here that's only got 210 pen, and it goes straight in there, which is really nice. So straight into the object. That was very cool. It also has got a really high damage roll. That was 528. Its standard is 480. but it goes right up to 600, I believe. The standard ammunition in this tank is APCR, and it costs about 1200 a round, which isn't bad when you think that T29 is 1000 a round. Now, we started losing 6-3, 4-7, and the TDs rolled out of the base. I have no idea why, but they rolled out of the base thinking they could roll over us. And some nice damage is to be had with this gloriously expensive ammo. But it has its failings, which we will cover earlier. Now again, like I say, this water tower is just an exceptional place to be, especially if you're not being surrounded by stuff. So it's a really good bit of hard cover, and it gives you perception into their base. Unfortunately, I'm the only guy here, but I am the biggest sort of tank on the map to a certain degree. The 54E1 is a nice tank. It's got the impact and burst damage. We call it the Nemesis because it's an ugly thing. If it can get around the back of you, get 4 rounds into you, you're in big trouble. But again, once you've got this flank, you are the master of all you survey, because like the base, there's so much open ground for them to come across. It's really difficult for them to establish any position on you without a lot of support. But you can be shot by the TDs here, unlike the other bush. So I'm pootling around here, firing off this expensive ammo because it's a first battle. I want to see how this ammo works in all sorts of guises so I can gauge it in future. To be honest, both of these rounds are Hesh rounds. This one has 210 pen. The Hesh round in load 3 is like your standard HE, but they're both types of Hesh round, and it has 105 pen, and it's a very similar gun to the Conqueror, just a different model, which is 120. Those, I believe, in mediums and heavies anyway, and TDs, those I believe are the highest HE penetration values in the game. Now, I fired some blind rounds there and got hit by Artie, and I immediately sort of thought, hang on a minute, until I realised, where did that round come from? I suddenly realised it's team damage. The guy doesn't want me to camp. But I've got no support, no cover, and I've got 9 minutes left on the clock, so I'd rather wait for people to make mistakes rather than try and hurry into the battle. So I figure, you know what, I may not be camping. He asked me if I wanted one more, and I figure, no, you know what, something is more likely to happen mistake-wise than me going YOLO with absolutely no cover. If I take some sort of critical hit on my gun or my track, there's still 2 TDs, and I don't really know where they are. As far as I'm aware, the object's still at the base. I don't know where the Waffentrager is. Why would I want to go? So I hold back. I look over this hill, and sure enough, mistake number 1 presents itself to me. Here's a good example of how these Hesh rounds work, because this could have been a Hesh or a Heat, but I reckon the APCR of this could possibly have bounced, because it hit quite high on the tank, and it hit the sort of, albeit it's a turretless TD, it's quite tough around that area of the tank. APCR might have got him, but the Hesh round most definitely did. Make a little mistake here and just put a little bit. I could have gone half a tank back here and still had the same shot. I see. Get spotted, and I'm also possibly in line for the Waffentrager. So that was, you know, a bad move. But the arties we've got both have a go at that guy and both miss. So I figure, look, I'll move back. I'll go back to this bush that I've gone about before, and I'll wait for him, because he's in the middle of nowhere. He's had the arty fire at him. He's not going to want to sit still. He's probably not thinking about how long the reload time is on the arty. So I go back to my little super bush, as I call it, and wait for him. Now, something very relevant here. Look how close he is. I shoot him, kill him. I don't get spotted. And that's because the tree in front of that bush is slightly knocked over. It's at least double bushed, so even a shot from 150 meters, unless he was stationary, he ain't seeing me. It's just not happening. So again, back to the highway tactics. We've got the flank as far as we're aware. We don't know where the Waffentrager is. We know that The medium, however, was somewhere at the front of the town, but the town is camped by our Jagdtiger and our prototype, so he's not going to want to go out with them camping the base. The camping that part of the base is actually a really viable tactic, because I've done it in a T29 and racked up sort of 4,000 or 5,000 damage. It was one of my best ever games in a T29. Now if you notice how I'm going down the hill here, I'm using all available cover, all available tanks. The last thing I want to do is get shot by the Waffentrager. I'm going to take a bit of a risk because arty rounds are going in. I've got a friend with me. The one thing the Waffentrager doesn't have is gun depression. No gun depression at all. So unless he comes down the hill, I'm likely to be able to get a shot on him, and the first thing I would do is go for his track so he couldn't move forward. But my Waffentrager friend behind decides to stop. He hasn't quite realised yet that we do actually need to just get up this hill. There's a lot of things he can't shoot from where he is. If I was to pop up and see a Waffentrager in this bush, it's very unlikely he'd actually have a shot to get in on him. Anyway, the IS that was never spotted is now YOLOing and has been vaporised. I'm loaded with APCR waiting for my Waffentrager friend, and I think, hang on, I'll load up some more of this really nice and expensive Hesh, because I'm not likely to use too much of it in future. It will one-shot both the arties. The one thing I would say is, when you're using APCR, it's a very, very, very accurate round. When you use any form of HE or Hesh, your dispersion changes to how the round moves, and you're about to see 3 shots. Now look at that, plumb in the middle. No, that cupboard door of a mantlet on the front of his gun, it's not actually a mantlet, it's just like a cupboard door. It hit that and it did 210 damage instead of like a mighty 500 or 480 or what have you. So he doesn't go. I'm not going to lose that yet. There's another arty. We still got 4 minutes. Oh look, there he is. Ah, lovely, juicy. Kind of more or less in the middle there, but no, it bent, lowered and hit the back of his track, and again didn't kill him. I've looked at the numbers. I've got MT15 here. Now I'd already had MT15, but I didn't have it with honours, and I needed it with honours to get that one more token, because I don't play enough high level arty. As the RU in the death dealing team, the team damage team, says normally I one shoot him. Well, I don't normally play this tank, it's my first battle, so I should be forgiven for anything really. He's lucky I'm not stock. The Waffentrager goes on and doesn't decide to cap, which is actually a very sensible thing to do, because they were coming back, and we might have capped, but we might not have done. We certainly won't do now he's dead. So I've got to go and take on the Waffentrager and the medium. I've got to try and get into these line of bushes, because they'll give me 2-3 seconds of cover to get over to here. I get one of the luckiest shots I've had after 2 very unlucky ones here. Look at this tiny cupola.
Enemy armor is destroyed.
That wonderfully stupid ammo gets a really lucky shot, and yes, I was very lucky there. But again, there's 1 arty round, there's 2. I can go arty hunting for about half a minute or so, decide to. Still holding this really wonderful ammo, which wasn't intended, it's what loaded up, and we're getting close to the end of the battle. See the Russian, I know he fired about 20 seconds ago, there's no way he's reloaded. Now that round there, as it went in, was really skimming off to the left, so the 210 Hesh round that does loads and loads of damage, I'm not too sure about it. I'd probably have a bigger loadout with the HE rounds that are just 105, but in all fairness, it carries so many pieces of ammunition, it's not a worry. At this point, I'm not going to chase the Lorraine. I need 1 minute and 30 or whatever you to cap. So I'm going to take that, and look, I'm on the cap with about 12 seconds or so to spare, so I might as well just sit here, wait for these guys to either find the arty, or if the arty decides to come for me, I've got him. So, but the last thing I would want to do is go to town, get hurt by some stupid peekaboo round or some lucky shot, and lose this extra token that I've got. So there you go, chaps. North flank with a medium, north flank not always with a light, the bridge is obviously a viable area if you're spotting for people, but with a medium or with a very low tier heavy, if you're 2 tiers below, taking this flank and coming across is one of the most regular tactics that's going to help you win the game and help your team win the game. The mediums that tend to go to town, if the town doesn't win, you're going to find yourself in a world of pain. This is the kind of map where you can take time and pause for thought, where you're over by the water tower, where you're over by that bush. It's very rare you're going to get rushed unless it's early in the battle, and you've got time to think about what you're doing. Thank you for watching.